A short notice bout right here, but a fun one nonetheless. Brandon Royval, he loses his opponent, Manel Kopp, and in 3 weeks' time, Josh Van, we already talked about it. He stepped up. He says, I want to call my shot. I want to put myself in title contention. And how can I do it? That's by fighting the best. Otherwise, I would have had to fight 5 other fights just to maybe get a shot at the #1 contender. But now you stepped in, you were a company man, and you kind of played the Donald Cerrone role right here. AJ, the Raw Dog, Brandon Royval, he's tall, he's lanky. We say it every single time. People are overhearing that talk right here. He believes that he is the most disrespected flyweight on the roster from an odds perspective, from a betting perspective, and just from a fan appreciation perspective right here. AJ, let me pull up what the current line is right now because I need just your honest take right here. Okay. All right, the line has evened back out. -115, Josh Van is in the driver's seat. He is a favorite. -105 comeback for Brandon Royval, depending on your book. If you go to FanDuel, Josh Van -130, Brandon Royval +102. So for the people who like the live dogs right there, there's still an opportunity. But talk to us, brother. How do you see this?
Yeah, I agree with what Brandon Royval is saying, Derek. He is one of the most disrespected fighters in the flyweight division. As much as Uncle Dana loves him, much as the brass loves him, likes to put him in crazy fun fights and then look to give this man a shot at the title, you just can't seem to get a lot of respect going on in the rest of everything else in his career. This fight, man, this fight's going to be very, very fun. It's reminiscent to the one we were talking about last week where they got the double payout, not Paziv,
Sadikov and Mota.
Sadikov. Thank you, Derek. This has all the makings for that exact same fun fight, right? Josh Van, dude's an animal, fast hands, solid boxing, down to scrap, right? Same thing with Brandon Royval. He has all of his own skill sets, likes to crash in, use counters, take the fight wherever he feels comfortable, has all the tools in the tool belt, and most importantly, homeboy is game. And that's what I think is going to make this fight so exciting is both guys are very, very willing, more than willing. They're open and engaged to be able to have that dogfight. That's what makes this fight very exciting for me.
Why don't you think that Brandon Royval gets the respect, especially against a boxer-puncher like Josh Van right here? Technically, from a film perspective, like what aren't people seeing or what are people seeing that are saying, oh, bro, Van's coming in with the knockout?
I don't necessarily know if it's a lot in what Van's going to do, Derek. I think it's a lot of what Brandon Royval has done previously, right, in his past fights. Like, a lot of the people are excited to see a prospect come up, right, when he is, and he's steamrolling people. You get a couple big-name fights. You don't really, you falter a little bit. I know there was a couple injuries in the past. Like, things have happened where Brandon Royval has lost that trajectory. And I think a lot of people, because of that, are what have you done for me lately mindset, and they've kind of forgotten what Brandon Royval is, and Josh Van is the new shiny toy. This dude has slick boxing, hits with power. There's a lot of advantages that Josh Van has that I think a lot more people like to see instead of a grappling style approach that we've seen Brandon Royval take.
You know, one thing it's interesting to me, AJ, I have to just at least announce it because we are in this. If you put enough tape out there, man, people just remember. We have such a short attention span. People just remember what happened last week, you know, or the week before at maximum, right? But I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and we're going to see right here, man. If you look at just the tail of the tape, or maybe I shouldn't say tail of the tape, but the last couple of fights right here, Brandon Royval, man. Again, there's some big names on here, and then there's some guys who maybe, you know, aren't the most impressive. But if you look at his hit list, man, you see some impressive names: Kai France, Moreno, Pantoja, Bontarine, again, no longer in the UFC, Matt Schnell, Nicolau, no longer in the UFC, Pantoja again, Moreno, Tatsuro Taira, impressive stuff right here. Some good names for Josh Van as well. Bunez, Charles Johnson, where you got knocked out, but people completely forget about that. Saruya, Silva, I mean, Edgar Chairez, like some good names. August Zumagulov, no longer in the UFC. But the point is this. You got knocked out by Charles Johnson in the 3rd round of your fight, but you're an up-and-comer. It's expected. You were still really, he was a big favorite. People are still really excited about you. Awesome. The next fight against Edgar Chairez, you almost get knocked out again in that fight. Blood and guts, back and forth battle, decision victory. You beat Durden, decision victory. Saruya, decision victory. And then finally Bruno Silva. It was one-way traffic and you got the finish in the 3rd round. The only reason why I bring this up is because people are looking at Josh Van and they're seeing this last knockout and they're like, oh yeah, he just knocks everybody out. This dude's just going to come in and just knock out Brandon Royval immediately. And I'm looking at it like, where are all of these knockouts that we speak of right here? Like, yeah, he's a fantastic boxer puncher. 7 knockout wins, 2 submission wins, 5 decision victories. But Brandon Royval, he can do it all too. 4 knockouts, 9 submissions, and that's really where I want I want your opinion on next right here. When we're talking about the grappling game of Brandon Royval, I just think he's a little bit more of an evolved fighter right here. Van's experience is very quickly catching up, but when it comes down to the evolution of if he hurts you and he jumps on a front choke, he is incredibly dangerous with jumping a guillotine, with putting you in a triangle, with sick scrambles and grappling from that perspective. Josh Van has sick takedown defense, but do you think he has the grappling acumen at this stage of his career to fend on some of the Benil Dariush-esque scramble capacities that Brandon Royval has?
And no offense to Josh Van, but not at all. Definitely not at all at this moment, that's for sure. Still young in his career, right? So Josh Van can still have the ability to grow in that aspect. But Brandon Royval, I mean, we just saw the names, even the people he lost to, right? And that's almost more important of a teaching moment for a fighter going forward. Brandon Royval has lost to some of the greats still doing it. There's so much more that he has to bring to the table than Josh Van has even seen. So I think right there, it's just not gonna be on the same level, even close, when we start the grappling offensive. And even in the striking, Derek, you're talking about an evolved fighter that Brandon Royval is. Dude is slick, right? Uses kicks at range, gets on the inside, does some damage. But what I like most about him is he is able to not only evolve his game over years, it's in the fight. Wherever he sees himself being most comfortable in, that's where Brandon Royval is going to take this fight, and that's where I think he's going to drag Josh Van around. Maybe submission, maybe a decision, but I do see this one being more lending in the favor of Brandon Royval.
That's right. That's right. And when I take a look at some of those past fights, that he had right here, I just think that Josh Van he's improving at a compound rate. Like, I think giving him a couple more fights, man. And this fight right here, win or loss, is going to take him to where he needs to be. But from a betting perspective right here, I just see a ton of value on Brandon Royval. Now, all of this can completely go out the window because Brandon Royval does like to stay in your face with his hand down, and a solid cross hook combination from Josh Van, which he excels at, can absolutely end this fight. I mean, Kai Kara France dropped him. You remember he came back with a spinning elbow. If that spinning elbow wasn't there, maybe he would have got finished right there, and that was all she wrote. Like, that's the thing. Brandon Royval could pull out some of this rabbit out the hat type stuff, but a boxer puncher like Josh Van, you do have to be worried about. The other thing here too, 3 weeks notice on a full camp, I think it's a little bit of a different story. But what do you think about Josh Van says 3 weeks is plenty of time, bro? This ain't short notice. I'm good to go. What do you think about that?
Wild, man. I mean, he's always training, but if you can get 3 weeks of solid tape study in on exactly some of the tendencies your opponent's doing, you better pay your coach 80-90% of your purse, because that's the only reason you won that fight. 3 weeks is a very short time to get ready for an opponent.
Yeah. We'll see what happens right here. I think some good body work by Josh Van can open up some doors right here. 81% takedown defense. I don't think Royval is going to be shooting takedowns like a D1 wrestler, but I think that on the ground, things might get interesting right here. All right, AJ, the total is at 2.5 rounds, minus 235 for the over, plus 178 for the under right here. So the odds makers are thinking this one may potentially go the distance, or we'll see definitely a late round stoppage if it goes that distance. How do you see it? What are the betting lines? What are the betting plays?
I like the late stoppage, Derek. I can see, especially with the skills. I'm going Brandon Royval, right off the jump. That's who I like in this fight. I think he has more to offer, more tools in the tool belt, like we were saying, more opportunities to present himself a win. As much as Josh Van can crack, and I am worried that both fighters are game and dogs and down to end up in a fight, in a dog fight. I think Brandon Royval is a little bit slicker, a little bit smoother. Man, there's a lot of ones right here. Depends on where you get, because if you're getting Brandon Royval at even money on the money line, not the best one, but you can find him on FanDuel, like you said, at plus money. That's the play all day long. But if you're taking one of the props, I think the best one, the most likely one, is going to be that over 2.5. I think that's likely to hit. If there is going to be a finish, it's going to be coming. Well, I guess either one of them can happen. I think it's going to be longer later in the fight. I don't really like the points. I don't like the submission at plus 750. I mean, he can catch a submission. But there's a lot of plays and a lot of different ways to go at it. What do you think, Derek?
I see this one pretty straight and narrow, just because this is a risky play right here. Again, you can't doubt the upside of Josh Van in this one, but I like Brandon Royval anywhere you can get him at plus money. I think it's a very clear play right here. For a totals perspective, I like the over. Again, Josh Van is not some miraculous finisher the way that people are hyping him up to be, and Brandon Royval, I think, will have his work cut out for him with a dangerous boxer puncher. I keep repeating it because the man is good at what he does right there. So I like Brandon Royval money line. I think that that's a safe play, and I want to give a word of advice to the Josh Van bettors. If you do want to go the Josh Van route, I would not throw him in a parlay. I would keep that as a single bet if you're going to go that route. But that's going to be a really interesting matchup right here for the trajectory of the flyweight division. In just like a fan perspective, just from like I want to see cool, exciting things happen. You want to see Josh Van win because that's the biggest shakeup that you can have. Like that's the cool thing. That's the movie ending type situation. But we're here to make money, and it's a little bit of a different perspective right there. All right, AJ.